I, a 33-year-old male, discovered that my wife, a 34-year-old female with whom I had been married for 11 years, was engaged in an affair. This revelation occurred 1 week prior to Christmas in the year 2023. The manner of discovery was profoundly distressing, second only to witnessing the act itself. The discovery was entirely accidental. We had recently upgraded our telephones because she had damaged hers beyond repair. During the setup of the new devices, there were photographs and videos from my telephone that she wished to transfer to her new one. Consequently, I signed into her Gmail account to synchronize with the cloud. I retained my previous telephone for gaming and streaming purposes, as it remained functional. The upgrades had taken place in late October or early November. Advancing to December shortly before Christmas, the Google Photos application on the old gaming telephone notified me with a message similar to "Review your memories from 2023." I accessed it, anticipating images of our 2 children, family excursions, or similar wholesome content. Instead, I encountered nude photographs of my wife. I immediately recognized that these were not intended for me. Throughout our 11 years of marriage, I had occasionally expressed that I would appreciate her taking sensual photographs for me, but she had shown no interest. I never insisted, viewing it merely as a pleasant possibility. The timestamps on the images indicated that the earliest ones dated from approximately 1 week earlier, while the most recent, a close-up photograph of her genitalia, had been taken just the previous day, while I was in the adjacent room, working weekend overtime. I descended into emotional turmoil rapidly, with innumerable scenarios flooding my mind. I nearly collapsed at that moment, but managed to compose myself sufficiently to think clearly. I recalled that between the breakage of her telephone and the acquisition of upgrades, she had used an older device we had stored. This old telephone had limited functionality but allowed access to her Facebook account and telephone calls. I retrieved and activated it, finding her Facebook still logged in. Upon examining her messenger conversations, I identified the individual with whom she was involved, and former romantic partner from her past. She had been prudent enough not to list him as a friend on Facebook, so I had no indication of how long he had re-entered her life. The messages appeared to be deleted regularly, as only a few from that day remained visible. One was a video in which my wife was selecting names for children she wished to have with him. I had never experienced such profound pain. I was utterly devastated and contemplated ending my existence at that instant, feeling wholly replaced and unnecessary. I also considered a retaliatory approach, capturing screenshots of their exchanges, where she described him as sent from heaven, and disseminating them on her Facebook page and to her entire contacts list. However, my lingering love for her prevented such actions. I could not inflict deliberate harm upon her. I confronted her that same evening, requesting explanations regarding the reasons, the identity of the individual, the duration, and whether the affair had become physical. She provided few direct responses. She acknowledged that it had persisted for some time and that they had engaged in sexual intercourse previously. She refused to disclose the individual's identity, though I already knew from the messages. Her stated reason was, "I did not know if you loved me as much as I love you." She claimed to feel insufficient love from me because I had not presented gifts on Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, and because I did not become upset over matters that distressed her. Instead, I typically encouraged her to approach issues logically rather than emotionally. Regarding gifts, it was accurate that for several years I had not provided any on those specific occasions. This was generally due to our recreational funds being allocated elsewhere, often toward items she desired, necessities for the children, or activities she wished to pursue. I always informed her that such expenditures would exhaust our discretionary budget, and she consistently agreed that it was acceptable. She had never indicated dissatisfaction with me or our shared life. Throughout our marriage, I believed I was fulfilling my role exemplarily. I ensured all essential needs were met, prioritized her desires over my own, accompanied her to places and events of little personal interest to me, never complained or belittled her pursuits, and actively planned outings to vary our routine of my employment and her household responsibilities. I devoted myself entirely to our marriage, striving to be an exemplary husband and father. We conversed that night following the confrontation. She expressed sorrow for causing me pain, though I cannot precisely recall if she apologized for or expressed regret over the affair itself, as that evening remains somewhat blurred in memory. She affirmed that she had never ceased loving me and genuinely wished to remain with me. I continue to love her, which intensifies the suffering. I desire to preserve our marriage, yet I am now consumed by insecurities and doubts. Having already exerted what I considered my utmost effort, the persistent concern arises. If it was insufficient previously, how can it suffice now? Is further attempt worthwhile? I feel purposeless, emotionally vacant, and profoundly depressed, merely enduring daily existence without envisioning a future. The question persists. Should I remain in this marriage, acknowledging it will never regain its former state or what I perceived it to be? Alternatively, should I terminate it and venture independently? In summary, my wife of approximately 12 years engaged in a prolonged affair. I retain love for her, but am emotionally shattered. Should I persist and attempt reconciliation, or conclude the marriage and seek independence? An edit to the original account. I have formatted the text for improved readability. I apologize for the initial unstructured presentation. I had composed it over several days in a notes application and directly transferred it without refinements. Addressing a significant inquiry I omitted regarding the affair partner. Following the confrontation, she messaged him that evening to declare the relationship terminated and to instruct him never to contact her again. She also blocked him. To my knowledge, she maintains no other social media platforms beyond Facebook. She no longer safeguards her telephone in my presence, allowing me clear visibility of her communications. Previously, she had never concealed it or reacted negatively to my handling it, so this was never a warning sign. I have examined her telephone on multiple occasions and found no evidence of continuation or additional involvements. She appears to be investing effort in resolving the matter. However, I cannot ascertain whether her remorse or regret is genuine, as I am uncertain of its expected manifestations. I extend gratitude to all who offered kind wishes and concern for my well-being. I did not anticipate such engagement or counsel. No definitive decision has been reached. My current focus remains on enduring this ordeal. My husband, who is 30 and male, and I, who is 30 and female, were together for several years before getting married. I genuinely believed our relationship was built on a solid foundation of friendship and love. He was my best friend, and I really could not see myself being without him for the rest of my life. When I became pregnant, we were nervous but excited. I was told by several doctors that I could not conceive naturally, so getting pregnant was a huge deal for me. And I had thought it was the same for my husband. But toward the end of my pregnancy, my husband started becoming withdrawn. He had just started a new job that required long hours, and I was aware it was stressful for him in a coronavirus disease environment. So I tried to make it easy for him and give him space and lessen the burden that this pregnancy appeared to be placing on him. After a few weeks on the new job, he became good friends with a female coworker. He would briefly mention her here and there in our conversations when I asked him about work, and I did not give it much thought. We have always had friends of the opposite sex, and we both trust each other to keep things appropriate. In my final month of pregnancy, the text messages began. From the second he stepped through the door, his phone would constantly go off. Literally every 5 seconds, he would get a notification. He would brush it off as work-related messages, and I had no reason to doubt him. He never hid his phone or acted suspiciously, but he always responded immediately to each text, often smiling as he did so. As a result, I was largely ignored at home while he stared at his phone screen throughout the night. Checking his messages was the first thing he did when he woke up, and the last thing he did before he fell asleep. Whenever I tried to engage him in conversation, he would give me a grunt of acknowledgement, his eyes never leaving the screen, his fingers replying to the latest message. There were a few times he would share something funny on his phone with me, and I would see these notifications popping up in real time. Always from his female coworker, always a message that did not sound work-related. I never invaded his privacy and looked through his phone, but I did not need to. Any messages I saw popping up were filled with cutesy nicknames and references to personal things. He would quickly swipe away these notifications and pretend they were not there, but as soon as I moved away, he would go back to respond. When I gave birth, my husband took 2 weeks off to look after me, and he was great. He made sure I was fed, took care of all the chores, helped out with the baby whenever I needed some rest, but as soon as he had any downtime, he would be right back on his phone. The messages never stopped. As our baby boy grew and he achieved his many milestones, I would always delight in sharing these moments with my husband. But anytime I pointed out something cute or new, the first thing he did was take a photo and send it to his coworker, continuing on with their conversation, which was clearly no longer work-related. Over Christmas, I told my husband that I was really looking forward to relaxing at home, just the two of us and the baby. I was exhausted looking after our son by myself all day, every day, and could not wait to get some proper rest. But my husband insisted on inviting his coworker to our house for Christmas, and I was expected to cook for her and entertain her. That was the tipping point. 4 months of neglect that I had bottled up inside just exploded out. I told him how miserable he made me each night, how he had sidelined me for someone else, how he lavished attention on his coworker and barely gave me the time of day. I told him that he was having an emotional affair and I could not stand it anymore. To his credit, my husband was apologetic about the neglect, but he refused to admit that it was an emotional affair. Yes, he talked about personal things. Yes, he constantly messaged her. Yes, he shared his happiness and frustrations with her. But no, it was not an affair. He did not have any physical feelings for this person. Therefore, I should not be labeling it as an affair. And how dare I accuse him of such things? He refused to continue the conversation, and it became a long, drawn-out week of silence. I cried myself to sleep every night, wondering why I was not good enough that my husband would find emotional comfort with someone else. Eventually, he opened up after I begged him to tell me why he found me so lacking that he chose to actively ignore me. His reason was that his coworker was fun to talk to. She gave him positive reinforcement all the time. In contrast, all I gave him was negativity and stress with the baby. He admitted that he watched me do pretty much all the work with the baby, and it was just easier to lose himself with someone else than to deal with the guilt of letting me raise our child by myself. I was heartbroken. Here was my best friend of almost a decade telling me that he did not want to be there for the bad times, only the good. That I was a weight dragging him down. It has been almost a month and I am still struggling to come to terms with it. I alternate between being angry and sad, almost always crying myself to sleep. I feel miserable, alone, unwanted, and just so exhausted. I can see my husband trying to make amends. He has stopped texting her around me, but refused to set boundaries with his coworker for fear of creating a bad working relationship. He gives me a little more attention each day, but it feels so forced. His moments of affection are guilt-ridden, and conversation is stilted. He does not want to talk about this anymore, so I will never get the closure I need. He has suggested therapy for me, but it is not something we can afford. If we keep going like this, divorce will become inevitable. I may just be overreacting to a small situation, but I cannot stop feeling so horrible all the time. I am so unhappy when he is around, but just as unhappy when he is not. Please, Reddit, how can I get over this emotional hurdle and move on? Thank you so much to everyone who took the time to comment and leave a message. I have not had a chance to reply to most people, but I promise that I have read every single one. I really appreciate the kindness, the words of encouragement, and the experiences and advice everyone has shared with me. To answer and follow up on some of the common questions and themes, why did I not tell him sooner that it was bothering me? In the first month, I really did not give it much thought. My husband's industry is notorious for having horrible work-life balance, so to have a constant stream of dialogue from people at work did not seem out of the ordinary. Yes, he started ignoring me, but he was settling down in a new job. I could justify it somewhat. In the second month, it started to bother me. It was around this time that I noticed it was just one person who was constantly messaging him. I wanted to say something, but I did not want to come across as being untrusting and demanding. I have dated jealous control freaks before, and I vowed never to be like them. By the third and fourth month, it had really cemented in for me that he was actively ignoring me for his female coworker. It was around this time that the messages became overly personal, and the frequency became so ridiculous that he would have gone to sleep, and the notifications would still keep going, waking up the baby. I tried to start a conversation on this multiple times, but every time he would dismiss me with a one-word answer and go back to looking at his phone. Things like, "I think you are spending too much time on your phone," would be replied with "yup" and nothing more. After a while, I just gave up. I already had very little energy left in the day. Why spend it talking to a brick wall? Am I actually being negative all the time? This was one of the things that hurt me the most. "You were negative and stressful" were literally the words he said to me. When I asked him to explain, it was broken down into two parts. Before the baby, I worked in a pretty entertaining place. I would often come home with funny stories and anecdotes, and even when venting about a horrible day, it would make us giggle at the end, at how common sense was just not common. When I went on maternity leave, my entire day revolved around the baby, and suddenly my stories at the end of the day were, he vomited and he pooped everywhere, and he did not have his nap, so now he is extra cranky. To him, I stopped being fun and started being negative. It is not that I deliberately shared only bad things, but our baby is no angel, and I can only share what I experience. The stress is a result of his guilt. He feels guilty that I let him sleep through the night, so he is alert for work, leaving me sleep-deprived every day. He feels guilty that I am so patient with the baby, when he cannot stand more than 10 minutes of crying. He feels guilty that I am doing so much each day by myself that I only get time to eat one proper meal. And all of this culminates to stress from being aware of his own shortcomings. But rather than dealing with these internal emotions, he chose to punish me for it because he knew I cared enough about him that I would be forgiving in the end. I baby-trapped him, and that is why he ran to someone else. That is just not true. He was the one who really, really wanted to have a child. I could have lived a life with or without children. I knew children were hard work, especially for the mother, but kids were important to him, and I was willing to put in the work. But it turns out that he was not prepared for how difficult things could be, and so he escaped to his conversations with his coworker. Would it bother me as much if it was a male coworker? Yes, it would. My biggest issue was that I was being ignored for someone else. If he was working on a project that demanded all his free time, that would be completely different. I would understand and support him, and I have in the past. But he was free to be a husband and father whenever he came home, and he chose not to be. This was not a conversation between two good work friends venting about their day, blowing off steam. He has done that before, and at the end of each conversation, he would shut off the phone and get back to home life. This was different. It was continuous. It was deep. And it took every single ounce of his attention so that the baby and I were left with nothing. The female part did not come into play until the end, when I saw that the messages became overly personal and an extra boundary had been crossed. Look through his messages. I do not need to. It can only be worse than what I have already seen in the notifications. Why subject myself to that? Confront the female coworker. I have always believed in not blaming the third wheel. Yes, she constantly messages a married man, calls him her other half, talks about personal things. But if my husband has not set any boundaries, how does she know she has crossed any? Why come to Reddit if it is just going to be an echo chamber for divorce? I did not have anyone else to talk to. I could not confide in friends or family because they would take sides, and it is really not fair on them. And despite how shitty my husband has made me feel these past couple of months, I did not want his friends to think less of him for his actions. I wanted to know if I was overreacting, if this was something I have blown out of proportion, and if it was, how do I move on? I am really grateful to everyone for showing me that despite my husband's denial that he was doing anything wrong, things were as bad as I felt. I do want to thank the few Redditors who risked their karma to give me a different perspective. that things could be salvaged if we worked at it. Like most of the comments below, I had considered divorce. But even with divorce, it would not change how worthless and unwanted he made me feel, how he still makes me feel. I want to try to heal before we go down that path. Moving on. I have come to the realization that it is not me who needs therapy, it is my husband. I tried communicating with him once more. I told him I was still deeply unhappy. He said he did not know where I was coming from, that he thought we had hashed everything out already last time. I showed him this post, a written account of what I experienced and how I felt. His initial reaction was one of anger. I have twisted his words, I have made him out to be the bad guy. How could I share this with strangers? I asked him to show me where I have twisted things. I asked him to show me where I was being unfair. I asked him to tell me who I could have confided in otherwise that would not have damaged his reputation. Things sounded twisted to him because he could not answer me honestly the first time around. Things sounded unfair, but it was the reality he tried to escape from. I could have been vengeful. I could have destroyed his reputation, his career prospects, but I still cared enough to protect him from the consequences. We will be separating for a while. It is a bad environment for the baby to be in. This will give him space to reflect on his actions, really figure out why he did what he did. I cannot force him to change for the better. I can only hope he wants to. If he chooses to do nothing during this time, then I wish him all the best with someone else. I, a 41-year-old female, am experiencing significant distress because my wife, a 40-year-old female, persistently discards my possessions and those of our 3-year-old daughter while denying such actions. This behavior has eroded my trust to the extent that I feel profoundly betrayed and uncertain about how to proceed. My wife engages in periodic cleaning sessions during which she disposes of items she deems unnecessary. The concern arises when she eliminates objects of personal importance to me or potentially valuable for our daughter. This has necessitated repurchasing numerous items, causing considerable frustration. I identified this pattern early in our relationship, following the unexplained disappearance of several belongings. Subsequently, I have repeatedly requested that she consult me prior to discarding anything, perhaps by placing items in a container for my review. Instead, she proceeds with disposal and denies having removed anything. Upon retrieving the items from the refuse, she asserts that they were insignificant and thus do not qualify as discarded possessions. Each occurrence prompts me to express the profound emotional impact, emphasizing the sense of disrespect and control exerted by unilateral decisions regarding shared or personal property. I have articulated clearly and repeatedly the importance of maintaining autonomy over my belongings. These episodes occur infrequently, approximately a few times annually. I acknowledge being less organized than she is and retaining some unnecessary items, yet I cooperate fully with her preferences for household order and am far from accumulating excessively. If she were to assemble items for disposal, I would generally consent to eliminating most. Notwithstanding this issue, our relationship is otherwise strong and intimate, and my affection for her remains deep. Recently, she tidied the home while assuring me she had discarded nothing. On this occasion, I initially accepted her statement. However, while disposing of refuse, I discovered bags containing various items. These included toys suitable for our daughter in the future, a handmade object I created for her that holds great sentimental value for both of us, consumable goods requiring repurchase, and articles of my clothing that I wear frequently, despite her dislike of them and her awareness of my reluctance to part with them. Retrieving and restoring these items required substantial effort. The core distress stems not from the objects themselves, but from the breach of trust. She is fully aware of my sentiments, yet proceeded regardless and concealed her actions through deception once more. Although it may appear exaggerated, this engenders feelings akin to betrayal and violation comparable to discovering infidelity, evoking similar sensations of infringement and diminished confidence experienced in prior relationships, though not with her. Discussions with my wife have proven ineffective. I struggle to overcome this perceived betrayal and restore the eroded trust and intimacy. The response from the community has been overwhelming, and I extend gratitude for validating my emotions. I value all contributions, even those that may seem overly critical of my wife. While I concur that her actions demonstrate a fundamental disregard for my autonomy, observers lack insight into the majority of our daily interactions. For further clarity, certain discarded items might be classified as clutter, although most occupy their designated places. Additionally, she does not dispose of evidently valuable possessions, such as electronic devices. I can often comprehend her rationale for selections, though some choices, such as unused packages of cannabidiol gummies, a partially filled container of kerosene, or tubes of adhesive, seem particularly ill-advised. To emphasize, this matter extends beyond mere disorganization. I recognize my relative untidiness and exert extra effort to align with her standards. However, I maintain reasonable hygiene and do not hoard. She targets items she believes unnecessary, regardless of their proper storage. Most discarded objects are appropriately placed prior to removal. Furthermore, her reference to a prominent organizer was metaphorical. She does not follow such programs but simply seeks to eliminate space-consuming items perceived as superfluous. Since the day before the incident, my wife has exhibited heightened affection, evidently sensing my distress. Last evening, we discussed the matter. I had composed a letter detailing my feelings to ensure precise communication, but hesitated to present it. Observing my agitation, she initiated dialogue beforehand. She initially assumed my upset concerned the relocation of my workspace to accommodate our child's needs, reducing my area for artistic pursuits. Although not entirely pleasing, I clarified that this was secondary. I elaborated on the pain caused by her disregarding my explicit objections to unilateral disposals and proceeding nonetheless, particularly with artwork and sentimental items. She claimed unawareness of the value of certain objects, such as a handmade epoxy chessboard requiring extensive labor, citing visibility of only its underside. Despite minor imperfections, its beauty and invested effort are evident. I countered that she should refrain from such evaluations given recurrent errors. She became defensive, suggesting I should have organized clutter, as previously discussed. I acknowledged room for improvement, yet noted irrelevance since discarded items originated from other locations, nightstand, drawers, closets, and informed her accordingly. I hope this was an impulsive remark, as alternative interpretations imply punitive intent. I reiterated the need for prior notification or containment for review. She referenced a past alleged negative reaction to the latter approach, which I do not recall. Even assuming accuracy, I questioned why it would exceed the offense of outright disposal. She proposed confining my belongings to designated private spaces, prompting my inquiry regarding clothing storage. Contradictorily, items were removed from those very areas. She insisted selections were limited to stained or previously agreed-upon garments, which proved inaccurate upon enumeration of unstained apparel and misrepresented agreements. I recognize her propensity for defensive responses under perceived criticism, often followed by reflective reconsideration. Typically, I afford space for processing. However, her persistent justification with illogical defenses angered me profoundly. Previously addressing broken commitments, I newly confronted her repeated deceptions directly. She offered no substantive reply. I withdrew for the evening, experiencing significant emotional distress, while she maintained affectionate behavior. Although she indicated future containment of questionable items and appeared contrite, no explicit apology or remorse was expressed, nor commitment to rebuilding trust. This suggests incomplete comprehension of the devastation wrought by eroded confidence. I remain dissatisfied and intend to advocate strongly for couples therapy, as recommended. Contrary to some views, I firmly believe this does not warrant marital dissolution or fragmented family structure for our daughter. Nevertheless, her muted response to highlighted deception constitutes a substantial concern. Absent genuine effort to restore trust, the foundation of our union may be irreparable. My stepsister, who is 29 and female, slept with my ex-fiancé, who is 37 and male, and married him. I am 28 and female. It has been 5 years, and my family thinks I should be over it already. I changed some minor details for the sake of remaining anonymous. Also, sorry this is so long. Once I started writing, I found it cathartic and could not stop word vomiting all over the post. Too long, did not read at the bottom. When I was 23, now 28, I was engaged to Ryan, who was 32, now 37. Our engagement ended when my stepsister Kelly, who was 24, now 29, begged me to leave him because they loved each other, but Ryan was too afraid to break up with me because he did not want to hurt me or my family. When I confronted Ryan about it, he denied it, said she had been trying to come on to him for some time, and he never mentioned it because he did not want to ruin our relationship. He begged me not to believe her, and so we continued how we were. Kelly grew resentful and made nasty comments about how I was forcing a man who did not even love me to marry me because I had low self-esteem constantly. A month later, she sent me a video of them having sex in my bed and multiple screenshots of him telling her he loved her, how he wished she was the girl he was marrying, how he hated that I would not let them be together. I was devastated and angry, but my best friend convinced me not to go nuclear on them, and instead to quietly move out when Ryan was at work the next week. So that is what I did. I contacted my dad and my stepmom and asked them if I could move in temporarily. I removed the money I had contributed into our joint account for wedding expenses and transferred the rest to him before closing the account. Once I got settled in, I sent all of the screenshots she sent me to all of our relatives and his. Ryan tried to get back together with me multiple times, but I ended up blocking him when I found out he had proposed to her with the same ring he gave me. I left it behind. Now Kelly is my stepsister from my mom's side. I have another stepsister who is 36, and a stepbrother who is 38 from my mom's second marriage, and a half-sister who is 26. They all went to the wedding. Whenever I tried to express I was hurt by the fact they were just supporting Kelly and Ryan as though what they did to me meant nothing, they would shrug it off and say they could not cut them out completely because they were family. I have not spent a single holiday with my mom's side since. Neither has my older biological brother or sister. I only see my mom and half-sister when I invite them over to my place, as Kelly and Ryan moved in with my mom and my stepdad a year after they got married. Our relationship is very rocky, but I have grown closer to my dad, stepmom, and their children, an older stepbrother, and 2 younger half-siblings, who have all been very supportive since this all happened, so it has not all been bad.
On New Year's Day, my boyfriend, now husband, proposed to me. We had a small engagement party which I invited my mom and half-sister to. They never turned up because I was excluding half of our family. I never invited my stepdad or step-siblings because they were pretty hurtful when it came out that Kelly and Ryan were sleeping together. They claimed it was not their fault I got in the way of true love and made me out to be some sort of vindictive Disney villain for being angry with them. We were planning to have our wedding ceremony this summer, but in late February, my husband suggested we postpone until next year because he was concerned coronavirus disease would get worse and we would have to cancel or reschedule anyway. I ended up finding out I was pregnant a month before our original wedding date, so we had a courthouse wedding on that date with the plan to hold the ceremony next year. Only my dad's side of the family were aware of both the pregnancy and the wedding. My stepmom likes to knit, so she has been making some stuff for the baby. Recently, she posted about the things she had made on Facebook with a caption talking about how excited she was to have another grandchild soon. I was tagged in the post. I have 0 issues with the post. I never told my family I was not going to inform my mom's side. It was not that I intentionally hid it from her. She just never seemed very interested in my life or relationship, so I never brought it up. My mom called me an hour later to demand to know if I was pregnant and how she could not believe I had not told her she was finally going to be a grandmother. She has since invited me and my husband over to her house multiple times. I have declined every single time for the obvious reason. My stepdad, who I have barely spoken to in 5 years, has reached out to tell me how excited he is to meet the baby and my husband, same with my siblings. Even Kelly reached out to my husband to congratulate us. I was furious. The next time my mom and stepdad called me, I finally laid into them. I told them I did not want them to keep inviting me over when they knew I would be forced to see Kelly and Ryan if I came. I told them how hurt and angry I still am over what they did to me and how my family dismissed my feelings. I told them how they would not throw Kelly and Ryan away, but they were so quick to leave me out to rot whilst I was going through the worst betrayal I had ever experienced in my life. I told them I was not even sure I wanted people like them in my child's life. My mom was crying hysterically and kept saying I was being cruel, and I could not deprive her of her first grandchild. The thing is, my baby is not her first grandchild. My sister has 2 adopted daughters already, who my mom does not even try to bond with. She kept wailing about how I might be the only person in our family to even give her grandchildren. My stepsisters are both having a hard time getting or staying pregnant, and my half-sister has proclaimed herself to be child-free. My stepdad got angry and defensive. He claimed I was petty for holding on to something that happened 5 years ago. He pointed out how I had found someone else, so I should understand how love works, and sometimes 2 people just cannot help themselves. You love who you love, basically. He said Kelly and Ryan were happy together, so I should be happy for them the way they are happy for me and my husband. The ironic thing is, my sister told me Kelly and Ryan looked like they were on the verge of divorce, and they argue constantly. My mom complains to her about them and how my siblings all hate him, but pretend they like him for Kelly's sake. I ended up hanging up because I was so angry, and when I get angry, I start crying. I did not want them to think they got to me, since I have been receiving texts and calls non-stop from my mom's family. They are all essentially telling me I should be over things already. It has gotten to the point me and my husband have switched phones so he can screen my messages for me, and I do not have to read them. Too long. Did not read. My stepsister slept with my ex-fiancé and married him. I am now happily married to someone else, and we are expecting our first child together. My family thinks I should be over it already since I have moved on, but the anger is still there, and I have no interest in forming a relationship with my ex or my stepsister again. They are now putting pressure on me to try and get me to forget it ever happened. How do I make my family understand just how unforgivable what Kelly and Ryan have done to me is? I would prefer not to go completely no contact, but is that my only option here?